somehow curated, and VINwiki and our YouTube channel has allowed me some incredible opportunities. At the end of the day, I am no one important. I like to consider myself a historian and maybe a storyteller, but I own a vintage car dealership in Miami, and I sell some really special cars, and that's about it. I haven't designed anything, I haven't created anything, but the business in my journey has allowed me the most surreal experiences and the most insane opportunities. Looking back, I will tell you, I don't think I would have ever imagined that I'd have the opportunity to sit down with Mr. Horacio Pagani and interview him about his experiences with Lamborghini. This story sort of starts many years ago. I had heard that Horacio Pagani was heavily involved in the development of Diablo parts and the SC30 and all of these lightweight parts, and there was really not much online. Once on his website, or an older version of the Pagani website, it actually talked about Mr. Pagani involved with the 30th anniversary cars, and I always was dying to interview him. I've mentioned it numerous times to people within the organization, and we were finally allowed this opportunity to interview him. Now, the next part of the story is interesting because it is sort of a story that has happened a few times at Curated. Sometimes we buy a car, we don't realize how special it is until looking back and, learning about the car, understanding things about the car. And it was about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, a colleague of mine reached out to me from Germany, and he had said, Leo, he had said that he had found a very special Countach, and my immediate reaction was, working with Pol Historico certification was to say, can we look up the file of this car? And they really, at the immediate reaction from Lamborghini was, we don't have too much on this right now. We have to dig deeper into our files. Leo is a Lamborghini nerd. He is a genius when it comes to these weird details. And he starts showing me why this Countach 25th anniversary is so special. And he has a ton of magazines and books and all of these different photos of this car. And then a regular 25th anniversary, and he is showing me all the differences. And what he had discovered was that this car, specifically, was the first Countach 25th anniversary made for the European market. It was the first car with a downdraft engine. There was originally another U.S. prototype that made it to the U.S., but this was essentially car number one, and it had a ton of different features than a regular 25th anniversary. The door panels were different, the rear valance was different, the scoops over the sides of the car were different. And these were all very subtle differences that even my eye could not tell at first. But when you put two cars beside each other, you realize there was a ton of differences. So we discovered this car had this incredible history. It was essentially the first car built. It was used in press, it was used in the brochures, it was used in magazines. It was used for about a year by Lamborghini for auto shows and things like that. And then later, it was delivered to a very famous Lamborghini offshore racing championship winner, Steve Curtis, who was racing, I think it was the Spirit of Norway, which if you don't know, Lamborghini had a very, very successful offshore racing boat engine program. They built these insane V12s that won championships around the world. So this car was delivered to him in, I think, 1990. So the car stayed at the factory from like 88 until 1990 and did some great things. Fast forward, if you guys don't know, Horacio Pagani, before he started Pagani, started his career at Lamborghini, and his career is insane. He was a young guy in Argentina, and through some mutual contacts, he started working in the racing world, and he was building these little race cars and taking them racing, and he was building models, and he was working with all these different construction materials. And he had the opportunity to meet probably the greatest, one of the greatest race car drivers of our time, Juan Manuel Fangio. And Fangio was so impressed by a young Pagani, he said, let me make some introductions to you in Italy. You are never going to build a supercar in Argentina. You need to go to Motor Valley. Fangio, I believe, wrote a letter to Mr. Ferrari. He wrote a letter to Lamborghini. And he wrote, I think, a letter to De Tomaso as well, a few of the brands. And Lamborghini responded that, yes, we would love to hire this young developing engineer. Pagani moves with his wife to Italy and goes to work for Lamborghini. Now, in the early days, there's some great photos of him around some early Countaches. I learned during our interview that he was responsible for some of the LM002 parts. And also, in addition, if you have a 1985, 1986 Countach, you know there's a few, very few, with carbon Kevlar front hoods and carbon Kevlar rear hoods. He was obviously involved with the development of carbon Kevlar in any lightweight materials. It was in 1986, 1987 that he decided that he was going to build his own car with Lamborghini. He was given this sort of incredible task to create the Countach Evoluzione. Now, I've talked about this, I believe, on VINwiki before. The car is missing. It was believed to have been destroyed. But imagine it was this Countach variant that was built on a carbon fiber tub, so way ahead of its time, and carbon fiber body panels, bare aluminum, big engine, stripped down interior, and this was Pagani's first baby. And all of that was used to later develop the 25th anniversary, which he penned. And there's some great visuals, I would say, of his original sketches for the 25th anniversary. And that would be really his first own car. Signed by him, he designed the Kevlar parts, the fiberglass parts for that car. And in that process, there's a great story, and this is somewhere probably on the internet or another channel, and we won't get too into it, where he was the one that inspired Lamborghini to allow him to buy an autoclave. I guess he took a loan, and he's the one that bought the carbon fiber, basically kiln or oven, to actually make carbon fiber in the most effective way. So fast forward, he would leave to create his own company, Modena Design. He would still have that original carbon fiber oven, and he would start designing parts for Lamborghini. And what I learned during this interview is that Mr. Pagani designed all of the wings for the Diablo. He built all of the wings for the Diablo. The rear hood, he designed all the rear hood, and other body panels. So really the SE30 in many ways was, his vision of using lightweight materials, carbon fiber, all of these different things. And he produced those materials for Lamborghini with Modena Design. Now, the story goes that he was actually developing a one-off car for Lamborghini called the L30. We've talked a little bit about this in another story on VINwiki that you guys could check out. But this was a really cool car. If you look it up, it is sort of a SE30. It has SE30 wheels, but very much the early DNA of the Zonda. And you see this car, you see the wing, you see all these features, and this was his dream to build this car. And his other dream was to build the V10, so the Jalpa replacement, the Yalpa replacement, which would later become the Gallardo, build the V10 replacement. So much history, so much love for the brand. But here is where the story has a full circle. Pagani is just expressing to me his love for the company, how his life was full circle, getting this opportunity from Mr. Fangio, and then getting this opportunity to eventually start Pagani what it is today. And he would not have Pagani if it wasn't for Lamborghini. And he tells me, it's so interesting that the first Countach 25th prototype, my own car, the first time it was ever seen by anyone was Juan Manuel Fangio. He's like, it just so happened that he was actually in Italy at the time. The day I was finishing the car, he walked in and saw it, and he goes, it's so weird. The first person to ever drive a Zonda was Paul Frere, famous race car driver, and later on in his life became a journalist. So the first person to ever drive a Zonda was Paul Frere, but he goes, you know what? The first person to ever drive my Countach 25th was Paul Frere. And what's so remarkable is the actual car that we had. There's a great photo of Paul Frere doing a burnout, like a smoky burnout on a Countach 25th. That was the car we had. And I don't think he understood during the interview that, like, oh no, we had that car. I meant that actual car. And what a full circle moment. This incredible opportunity to just hear his love for Lamborghini. I think he was, a little bit emotional because of his heart is with that company even today. The coolest thing, after the interview was over, and I don't know at what point this will be on the curated TV channel, but I'm sure Ed will add a link. He actually said that, you know what? I have so many Lamborghini stories to tell. Let's do part 2. So stay tuned. I promise you this is a surreal experience for me, and I'd love to share a little bit of interesting history from Lamborghini.
If you get a ticket, the first thing you should do is text a picture of it to 305-305. That will get the ticket clinic on your case immediately. You'll be facing costly fines, risks of suspension, possible jail time, points on your license, higher insurance premiums, and a lot of bad things that they can help you to avoid. You can also find them at the link in the description below, but the Ticket Clinic is a nationwide law firm with brick and mortar offices in Georgia, Florida, and California, but they've got attorneys everywhere, and that's what's most important, because a local attorney will know exactly how the local laws work, know the people who are in charge, and get you the best outcome possible. So text a picture of your ticket to 305-305 or click the link in the description below to fight your ticket with the Ticket Clinic.